Good evening. Welcome to the October 15th, 2014 Falmouth Conservation Commission hearing. Tonight's agenda will start with voting some minutes. First is October 1st, 2014.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I read the minutes and I found just a couple little things that I can pass into our recording secretary for. One I'm not certain of, that may or may not be a correction. I just can't recall well enough, but the house on 58 Davis Road is referred to as having been built in 2005, and I just couldn't, my impression was that it was an older house than that, but I don't honestly remember too clearly.
Remodeled in 2005?
It probably, that I would imagine that would be the case, and it does have a 5-bedroom septic system, so that suggests it's not
Okay.
too old, but.
I think it was remodeled, probably.
I'm going to say that would be,
Mary, we can correct that.
I can go
Okay.
back to look at this.
Okay.
okay.
We'll correct it, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's one on the Gardner Road, one where it refers to the front elevation being at 13 and the rear of the house being at 50, and I think that was 15.
I'm going to agree with that.
And, but anyway, otherwise, we're in good shape.
Move to accept the minutes with the corrections.
Second.
Fantastic. All right, any other discussion on the board? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is October 8th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, I read the minutes and have one minor correction to make. I don't think it needs discussion.
So we'll hand that correction in. So that's Mary's motion. We have a second.
Second.
Russell's second. Any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next on the agenda, request for determination of applicability. This is one of the permits that we issue. It's a lesser one. You want to hear a negative determination. A negative determination on this means that you can go forward with the project as presented to staff. Staff is the one that reviews this. They make their recommendations to us, and we vote on it. And that's what their negative determination means. First is 94 Oyster Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass. for permission to control common reed phragmites using the cut and drip method and the absorbent glove method. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project, and we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
That was Mary's motion, Russell's second. Is there any discussion on the board? Is there any discussion on this project in the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 83 Nantucket Ave, East Falmouth, Mass. for permission to demolish the existing house and construct a new house with proposed walkways, drywall, septic modifications, including a 1,500-gallon septic tank, grass driveway to remain, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have reviewed the project and are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Again, Mary's motion, Russell's second. Is there any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is Jewett Realty Trust number 3, across from 33 Penzance Road, Woods Hole, Mass. for permission to remove 3 dead trees and replace with 3 eastern red cedars.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have reviewed the project, and Mark is recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Russell's motion, Mary's second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion from the audience on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. That concludes the RDAs. Next is a request for hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Now, I'm never going to memorize that. There's no way. First is John Parker, Lakeside Village Condominium, 35 Parker Road, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to improve the existing access to Flax Pond with a 4-foot wide crushed stone or paver landings, replace timber stairs with an Allen block stair system, loom seed adjacent to the walkway, to obtain an after-the-fact permission to reconstruct a concrete block retaining wall and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll save any of my comments until after Mike's presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, John Parker, Lakeside Village Condominium. I'm joined tonight by Bob Pellegrini, president of the association, and we're here tonight in hopes of receiving permission from you to do some improvements to the beach access that is historically used by the condominium association to the small beach at Flax Pond, and to get permission after the fact to allow the existing concrete block retaining wall to remain in the position that it was recently reconstructed in. The property is located on a dirt road known as Parker Road. It's a condominium development with a couple of buildings, but the focus of this work is on the northeast corner of the property where the frontage of the lot is on Flax Pond. One of the buildings exists in this location. The property lines are here, and the frontage on the pond is here. The wetland resources under review tonight are land under a water body, the pond, and an inland bank, which is defined by the high water line on the beach. And we've shown the associated A and B zone to the inland bank as required. I had mentioned a existing concrete block retaining wall that was reconstructed. That was reconstructed without the benefit of a permit, and conservation staff was notified of some work being done, and your agent, Mark Hasmusick, went to the property, discovered that work on this wall had commenced, and it had been virtually almost completely reconstructed in the same footprint, except for, I believe, one course of concrete blocks. They were told that they could stabilize the site, and were requested to put a hay bale barrier and to file a permit to allow the wall after the fact to be constructed. Mr. Pellegrini had made arrangements for our contractor to do the work. That this wasn't an impulse decision. It was something the association had been trying to budget the money for. The wall was actually a safety hazard to the association members because it was showing signs of failure by leaning and tipping, and they were concerned it was going to topple. Mr. Pellegrini can speak for himself. We're truly not aware they needed a permit to just replace that wall, or they would have come forward. There's no reason not to have come forward. So they're here tonight a little humble about that. They did as directed and filed the notice of intent. There are a couple of other activities that, since we are before you, we were hoping we could do. Simply to maintain the access that has been used over this area. The access is steep in some areas on the path. Some of the older condominium owners are having difficulty getting down to the beach, so the plan was to make that access easier by putting some intervening landings along the path using the same block material that was used on the wall. I've drawn a profile of that. We're following the existing grade, and we're simply taking it from being steep to flat with a couple of steps, flat with a couple of steps, and continuing that theme from the top of the path down to the bottom of the path, which is right at an existing set of timber stairs. The timber stairs, they're in decent shape. In fact, Mark Hasbisick was concerned that the area around the timber steps was actually an area that had the potential to erode. There was some signs of erosion underneath the steps, and he thought it would be a good idea to replace the steps. So we've included replacing the steps in this application. So there's really three activities. There's permission to make the path more accessible and less potential for tripping, and make it less steep. There's the replacement of the existing stairs that lead to the beach, and there's permission to allow the wall that was rebuilt without a permit to stay. I think that sums it up. Bob and I are both here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mike, did they go to the building department yet regarding the wall?
No. No, not at this time.
That will need to be done. The only thing I have, Mike, is there is an area of existing vegetation right where you have the word "of" and "work" on your limit of work in your silt fence that we would like shown on the plan. And the only concern the staff has is you are making a fairly substantial walkway down there, cutting into the grade. The board will have to decide whether or not you would want compensation plantings for that, because that would be a pervious surface that does not support natural vegetation. I did pass around a few aerials for you, and the condition of the site back in April when the work was being done for the wall and some grading. It's Mark's under the assumption that that area was grass and dirt and not have crushed stone or pavers in it, so that would need mitigation plantings on it. Other than that, I don't have any issues with the wall, other than it should have come for a permit. And those are my only comments.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing that Jen reminded me of. Regarding the path, there's always been a path that was made out of like patio blocks, for lack of a better word. And I have a picture that I was just handed tonight of a brochure from John Parker Village
Can I see it, Mike?
that shows that. So that's what we're replacing.
When was this?
I would probably say pre-1980,
Okay.
because in 1980 they were turned into condos.
Okay.
That's gonna have to go in the file.
Yeah, we're bringing it over.
Keep that on there.
Thank you, because that was our biggest concern, because we don't know what was there, because the site was pretty ripped up when we
Disturbed.
got there. So,
Okay.
thank you for providing that.
Yeah, welcome.
Mike, did that little walkway go all the way down to those steps you're constructing at the end?
Yeah, that's what Bob told, I asked Bob the same exact question once I discovered that.
It was hard to see because there is quite a decline. That's why we kind of wanted to put some steps and some landings, because the decline had gotten so bad, and then the dirt kind of had gone over it.
So, yeah, you have to go up to the.
Oh, I'm
podium,
sorry, yeah,
I was trying to sign
if,
language. to
just
Tom
for
to
everybody's,
distract you.
I'm sorry, I'm drifting off here, I apologize. If you want to make a comment, please come up to the podium, identify yourself for the record, and that way it comes, not only for us, but for the people at home as well.
Okay.
So if any further comments, please do it at the podium. But thank you. Mario?
I'll start off.
Yes, please.
I'm in favor of the paver walkway. I think that's just what the site needs. That's a very somewhat steep slope there. It's very gravelly, and I could see somebody falling, trying to get down to the water. So I think the walkway, I could certainly agree with. I have to ask you, though, that's a rather elaborate proposal for what you're calling beach access. So you must have future plans for that beach, because it's not really a beach, it's kind of an exposed shoreline. I didn't really see anything that really resembled a recreational beach.
Bob Pellegrini, I don't know if you can hear me, Bob Pellegrini, 32 Partridge Way, Hanson, Mass. The beach has always been there since I've been there. I bought in there as an owner, and then the place was not being managed correctly, so it forced me to get more involved, and I help run the day-to-day operations of the place. So my experience of what I'm telling you about is about 5 or 6 years. But the pond has always been there, and we've always used it. And I'm being told by people that have been there longer than me, the beach was actually bigger. And over time, it has seemed to shrink a little bit with some vegetation coming in on either side of the shoreline. But we do use the beach on a regular basis. After you see in that picture there, it kind of drops off, and it goes down a pretty steep decline. And the pavers over time have settled in, and dirt has gone over them. And it's always been there, and it went right down to the pond, and we've always used the pond. There's always been a set of stairs there.
Mhm.
And,
So you, at the present time, you have no plans for that beach?
to do anything other than what we're using it for now, no, which is to swimming.
Right, well, what about like, I mean, there's hardly any sand there now. I don't know what it
You're
was like
right.
10 or 15 years ago, but it kind of looked like a stony, kind of
It
exposed shoreline.
is very gravelly.
Yeah.
It is very gravelly there. I mean, we still use it, the residents still go down in the summertime, the pond's very clean, it's crystal clear. The only thing maybe at some point in time is, if it's possible, and I don't know this, to add some sand to the beach line. Now, if that's a big deal,
But you understand that would require a separate filing?
that would require a whole nother filing, I understand.
Mari, that's natural heritage over in there too.
I'm sorry?
That's natural heritage over in there too. I'm not quite sure that they would want additional sand put on an area where there's the
Yeah,
habitat for that.
all right, so.
Freshwater
we
mussel,
don't have
so-
anything from natural heritage?
Yeah, there is a lot of mussels there.
Yeah, I would,
You have a,
You're waiting.
okay.
So what our intent is not to do anything crazy there. People run canoes, kayaks, that kind of stuff. There's a couple of paddle boats, and that's what we use it for. And it's about 28 units. There's probably 10 or 12 full-time people there that call it home year-round, and for some of us, it's a summer place.
Just as long as you understand that any future plans for that area would require a filing.
Okay.
And a no-take letter from Natural Heritage.
Well, our intent was, before I even got involved on the board, there was some talk in previous, you read through some old owners' meetings, and the wall has been a bone of contention, and nobody's addressed it. So when we had been saving up for, I don't know, a year and a half to put this project together, and then when we had a couple of contractors come out to do the wall, nobody mentioned anything about a permit. And then, that's number one. And then number two is that the people that did come down and did look at it, their concern was the wall is gonna fall, and it's sooner than later. So then my decision is there is a porch on the front of it, on the front of that building that's in there. And the last beam at the very end of it is what we were concerned about, and all I could see was the insurance part of it. So the wall caves in, the porch comes down, then all of a sudden we put a claim in with the insurance company, they pay, the wall gets done, now the insurance goes to the roof. And that was what my concern was. I wanted to make sure that we knew about it, so it needed to be addressed.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mary?
I'm not sure who submitted the aerials, but did you do that, Mike? Or-
No.
Okay, first of all, when was the project, the wall project started, more or less?
April.
April, okay. And when were the buildings built?
I think 1960,
Okay.
pretty close to 1960s when
Okay.
the buildings were built.
Okay, thanks.
Plus or minus a year, I think, but.
So we have these aerials here, 2012 and 2014, and I have to say that I'm having difficulty discerning what it is they're supposed to show.
Just grass. I mean, Mark wanted to see if you could see a pathway that went down, showing the pathway that goes down to the water. That's all.
Okay. So there's nothing about the wall?
No.
No, not at all.
Okay. Mike, could you talk about the staircase a little bit and the benefit from the environmental standpoint? Seems to me it's a benefit that it has risers, in terms of scouring and that kind of thing, but
Sure.
the existing staircase could
All right, well,
acquire risers also, so.
the existing staircase is pressure-treated lumber with open risers. You can look, I think you can look in and see the bank underneath.
Right.
So it doesn't allow for any vegetation to grow. It's shaded out. And Mark Kasperzik thought that that area in and around and under that timber set of stairs had the potential for erosion, and it could even be exacerbated over time. So he thought it was a good idea to try to rebuild a set of stairs that would actually be in the slope, which is why we chose this Allen block system, because it lends itself to that type of work, so that it actually provides the access and stabilizes the bank at the same time. It's not an absolute necessity to the project. We kind of took the lead from Mark to propose to do it. We don't need to do that. It sounded like a good idea, so we thought we would get permission to do it. If it's a bone of contention, then
I'm not trying to suggest it's a problem for me, I just honestly wanted to hear what
Yes.
you had to say.
so if the blocks are set into the bank instead of the timber, which is sort of over it, it'll stabilize that small area of bank.
Okay, thank you, that's all for me, thanks.
I'm all set.
John?
I guess I'm just curious about mitigation plantings, the possibility of mitigation plantings. Is that something that you're open to including in this proposal to compensate for some of the area that's going to be lost as impervious surface?
We talked about that briefly a while ago. Our feeling, we're open to it, yes, but our feeling was that since we had a path that was already not supporting natural vegetation, that it really wasn't increasing impervious surface or pervious surface that doesn't support natural vegetation. So, you know, arguably, there was no trigger to provide the mitigation. Providing some just to sort of add a little bit, I think we'd be open to. I don't know that we would want to be subject to the actual true 10.18 requirement of 3-to-1 for the
Right.
path.
Yeah.
But we could talk about it, and since we have to continue the hearing because of the file number hasn't been issued, we could add some mitigation planting to the.
Okay.
I can talk to, and Bob can talk to the association members and make a decision. We'll have some time to do that.
Okay, and that would make me happy to have that included.
I think it would be beneficial because, Mike, when you and I talked about it, you told me that the walkway was gravel, and then now we have it being pavers, so we don't really know what it was to the extent it was or how big it was. No, you can't tell me as an engineer that you know how big that was, or
No.
what the space was before, so you don't know.
No, all I know is it's eroding, crushed stone gravelly on the
But
steep part.
like I said, they were placing gravel there in the rain when we went out there, so. I think it's definitely something that association should consider. If you could go back out as well, in the interim and look at that area to mark that vegetation, that would be great. I would appreciate that. And you don't have your letter from Natural Heritage yet, do you?
No, but we have filed.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think that their habitat is the shoreline and Flax Pond itself. I think I can anticipate you'll probably get a no-take letter from them.
Right.
So that's not gonna be a problem. I'm not doing any work in Flax Pond, so.
Well, no, I get to ask. I'm looking at this as a learning curve. Henceforth, I think anybody realizes that any activities involving the digging and all that, are gonna require a permit. This is gonna get a permit. What this affords you, when you get a permit, when you have a notice of intent, you receive an order of conditions, and it's a guideline, it's a performance standard, and it's a shoo-in for you for maintenance in the forward. Despite this board, 15 years from now, you come to do another repair, maintenance on this project, now you have a baseline, you have a history. That's why I'm disappointed, and I'm a contractor. I've worked in this town for decades. I'm disappointed in the fact that somebody would look at this and not realize that they're within jurisdiction. It just, whether naive or just, if you're gonna cheat smart, I don't know. That attitude, better to ask for forgiveness than to get permission. Well, we're leaning more and more towards understanding and being, educating people. It's important to realize this, and this is not a lecture for the association. This is going over the airwaves, and it's for other associations and other people that are in similar situations. Realize, despite the term, we're from the town and we're here to help, right? It's true. We do, I'm gonna mirror one of my other board members, the pavers and that access down there. This is not an individual, this is a common area. I'm all for that. I think that's awesome. A safety thing, absolutely, no problem. I think that could have been done a long time ago. It has, thank you for the brochure.
Oh, yeah. That's
Of
the only
course.
thing that shows it.
Yeah, and that gives us a little bit more. One of the things I'm gonna suggest is that while you're gonna get a continuance because you have to have things, other numbers.
Okay.
There's a downspout right at the corner of the deck, right at the wall. That's one of the reasons that wall failed. Okay, I can
Oh,
guarantee
sure,
you,
yeah.
I can guarantee you,
Oh, yeah.
think like a raindrop, I can guarantee you that will be a pain in your butt the rest of its life. However, since you're already investing in this, and
Okay.
I would suggest, there is no dry well detail on this plan, and I think that would augment tremendously where all your activities are here, twofold. And I don't like designing projects, but this one was just right in my face. This wall, being as high as it is, it also needs a permit. The
Okay.
building department needs to be involved in that.
Okay.
A dry well to contain here for what happened over the years, and everybody knows it, some of that gravelly stuff at the bottom on the beach area is the stuff that was up that way, you know, and, you know, things run downhill. I think if you have another dry well, not on each flat spot, but at least one section up, second section from the bottom, if there is sheeting with pavers that catches, you can contain it before it goes all the way down to the beach area. And it's a little bit more money, but this is the time when good money spent
So
is
you're
something.
talking about before the retaining wall?
Before, yeah,
Yes,
yes,
okay.
yep. So that it can help capture any runoff that's coming from up above on the new pavers that would come down and trickle down and trickle down. You kind of capture some of that runoff and the direct discharge from up above, whether you tie that in together, you know, I don't know how you, that's where I'm gonna trust on your skills. The base material, we're gonna go, I wanna be clear about it, I heard pavers as opposed to crushed stone for the flat areas. I think that's what the board is anticipating to see, is the pavers. I think in the long run, it's a whole lot
That's
less.
really what we want.
Okay, and that's where we're leaning towards. The interlocking steps on the blocks, I think that kudos to entertaining that and putting that in there. Again, even though it's a little bit more money,
Yeah.
the money spent wisely now is gonna put the longevity of this project. Instead of having one weak point, the
Okay.
timber stairs at that last thing, even though they're not dilapidated or anything, but, you know, you take that now and onward you go. So, I think Mike's got a list.
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay. And we know we're gonna be getting a continuance. So I'm gonna have them, just so the audience knows, I'm gonna have a motion and a second on the board, and then I'm gonna open it up for discussion with the audience.
I'd be happy to move that we continue this, but we haven't discussed it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much. See you on the 29th. Next is 71 Quashnet Way, Wacoit. This is under continued hearings under a notice of intent. And it's 71 Quashnet Way, Wacoit, Mass, for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new three-bedroom, single-family house and attached garage, deck, install walkways, a retaining wall, driveway, utilities, native mitigation plantings, remove trees, the existing septic tank, and replace with a 1,500-gallon tank and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yeah, I
Yes, thank you, Tom.
discovered this plan in the mail this morning.
Good evening, Mr. Bunker.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I prepared the plan, as you see in front of you. You should have one with a revision date of October 8th. Last Wednesday, we submitted another revision.
Yes.
And you can tell because it has the detail up in the top right corner of a driveway with the two strips of pavement with the grass between it.
Thank you.
This house, or this the lot has a house on it already, built about 1971, before the wetland protection and Falmouth wetland regulations went into effect. It's closer than it would be allowed today. Much of it's in the A zone of various resource areas we have on the site. You can see it also is very much cleared of understory. There's an oak pitch pine overstory and sandy native grass below it. As I said, the house was built in 1971. The septic system was upgraded in preparation for sale in 2008, so it has a Title V septic system for 3 bedrooms. We can't expand any further, being already the septic system is closer than would be allowed except under an upgrade or repair. So we have to stay with 3 bedrooms on this property. In addition, past history, there was a dock or a platform that's in the water there that was permitted, started filing in 2008. I believe it did just get the compliance a short time ago. And actually shown on the plan, there are some native plantings that were put in there so they could get the compliance. The property fronts on Moonicus River, which is not actually a river by DEP standards. There's a map that shows where the mouth of the river is, and it's just upstream from here. So this lot is not subject to the Riverfront Protection Act. Along the river, there is a bordering vegetated wetland, which is marked by Jack Vaquero. The flags are shown, labeled on the plan. And flood zone, which comes up, the new flood zone is up to elevation 11 on the North American vertical datum, so slightly higher than the previous flood zone was. And along with the flood zone, there is, because of the slope of the ground, basically exceeding 10 to 1 on most of the lot there, it's a coastal bank, except for the area where it levels off to go into the existing walkout level below the house, and also some of that road where the dirt area comes in from the side is not a coastal bank. In addition to that, the Walkway Bay area critical environmental concern is defined by the flood zone, elevation 11. We've shown the A zones for each of these resource areas. The river is a 75-foot A zone. BBW along the river is a 50-foot A zone. And the resource area, which has the furthest landward A zone, is the coastal bank. Because this coastal bank running along, at least along the riverside, touches a wetland at its base. Another resource area has a 50-foot A zone, which passes through the house, about almost a half of the existing house, about a third of the proposed house on the lot. I think I drew a 50-foot buffer as an A zone around the coastal bank along the whole thing, but actually I think along the driveway side it should have been a 25-foot A zone because there's no other resource area at its base, but it's on here as a 50-foot A zone. What the Dr. Jacobs and his wife want to do is to tear down the house and build a new house. We show the outline of the existing house, and that's shown on the sheet 1, the existing conditions plan. Show the outline of the existing house and the shaded proposed house. And you can see all of the expansion is uphill or landward, away from the resource areas. So there's going to be a deck where the existing deck is, although expanding laterally parallel to the coastal bank. Otherwise, the water side of the house is pretty much the same as it is now, but we're adding 12 or so feet to the upland side. Across the back, when we're adding in onto the uphill side, so we've shown a retaining wall back there. We'll have to have a structural engineer design it, but it's about 6 feet high. And there's a walkway between the house and the retaining wall on that side, and there'll be planting and probably a railing or something along the top of that wall, whatever's required by code for safety through there. There's also are adding one other smaller retaining wall on the water side, the deck side of that, because we're making an access from the deck around the side of the house to the driveway. So where now there's just a sloping, kind of eroding area down to under the deck, we'll put in a retaining wall that will hold that up, carry the walkway, the stepping stones, and allow some vegetation to reduce the any erosion or any runoff potential in that area. The biggest change, really, why we didn't come back here 3 weeks ago or whenever for the previous one, is we changed the driveway. Before we had a larger driveway with a paved turnaround and all on it. We've taken that out, changed that, as you can see in the detail on top of the page. We have a two-track tire track system of the pervious pavers with a grass strip in between. This has basically reduced the pavement in that area about 600 square feet in there. Before, I think we had, with a turnaround and everything, that wouldn't have been possible, but with just a single track going into a single car garage. Up at the top, we do have a parking area, 12 by 20 feet parking area, also made out of the pervious pavers. The detail of the pavers is there. The blocks themselves are pervious to water, and the way they're formed, there's a gap between them when they're installed, which has stone in between it, much larger than would be possible to won't get clogged by sand. I think it's about 3/8 of an inch in that area. So made a big reduction in the impervious area through that driveway location, which will have a great effect on reducing the runoff down the hill into the cul-de-sac, which there's a paved waterway going from that down into various other resource areas. Of course, that water all runs down Quashnet Way, so nothing we can do about that. I think we've done our part to reduce that substantially. And we're putting in dry wells for the roof runoff. Down at the lower level, we do show hay bale or straw bale limit of work. In some other areas, just the construction fence, just for, particularly along the lower construction access, just the orange fence to keep people from straying into the wooded area. That access, we feel we'd like to keep open and is not plant shrubs in it. I have noted on here that we planted with the fescues, so the truck can get in there for periodic maintenance of the septic system in that location. And with the reduction in the pavement and the pervious pavers and all, I've calculated the mitigation planting, which we have down along the lowest area along the river, with an opening in the mitigation planting for the existing dock out to the water. So that's the project. I'll take questions.
Thank you. Jen?
I have a question. Tom, when you talk about the pavers they're using, you didn't calculate the square footage of those
I did in the A zone,
in the A zone?
yes.
Okay. You didn't calculate them in the B zone?
No, your regs mention, the pervious
Got
surface
it,
which can
yeah,
export
I
it
know
for
where
A
you're going, yeah,
zones.
okay.
So I didn't do it in the B zone.
Speaking of A zone, do you have a 100-foot buffer to the bordering vegetated wetland because you're in an ACEC? So, but I just kind of scaled it out. I don't think it's gonna matter
It
to
will
your
go-
calcs.
I don't think that will go.
No, I don't think it will either, but I just need that note changed on the plan.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? And other than that, I'm all set.
John?
Just one question about here, looking at the driveway and the full plan, it says there's a white oak on the top corner. Is that being removed, or is that?
In the detail, those are 6 proposed, which,
Your 6 white oak,
the 6 white oaks are proposed.
Oh, that was, oh, okay, sorry.
You took the wind out of my sail, thank you.
Just
Did I
demonstrating
leave
my
the label
ignorance.
off there?
No?
No,
that's-
sir.
No further questions.
Okay. Russ,
No questions.
Mary?
So the layout of the driveway is the same, but the materials are different, is that true?
It's
You're
smaller.
taking out the turnaround.
Took out the turnaround and made it from, yeah, it's not asphalt side to side, it's the two tracks.
Right,
So it's smaller, I mean, it's the same basic
So,
layout with no
okay.
turnaround, yes.
okay, all right. And the staking, I went there yesterday, the staking is the old staking, is that right?
Yes,
And then I discovered this plan today, and I've just been,
yeah, it's hard following up when you do a revision.
yeah,
We should get
okay,
back
and
out
also, I would have
The house is-
appreciated having the house, the proposed house staked out
I
better.
think the house is-
Wasn't really staked out at all.
there. The house is big, well, it was hard because it's around the existing, the house is the same on the,
There were a couple things, but not.
yeah, that's,
Addition towards the up.
Okay, and then my only other question, I'm confused about the septic.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this note on here talking about removing the septic. Is that from an old version of the plan when they actually changed the septic, or
no.
is it just the?
The tank that's in there, because of the existing house was down lower, and there's a pump chamber. So what they'll do is when they dig up and, when they build the house and dig up the leaching
Okay.
and determine the pipe elevations, put in a gravity system ideally. if
Okay.
it can be done.
I was confused about how much work was completed, so.
It's a
okay.
new system, but it has a pump chamber in it,
Gotcha.
so we're trying to get rid of the pump chamber.
Okay. That's all, thank you.
Mario?
Say, DEP says this is not riverfront at this point.
They have a set of maps out that show the mouth of the river, and it really is the next property up.
So the shorelines are not really parallel at this point, is that?
The shoreline? Well, if you look across,
This
there's
shoreline,
a
yeah.
point of land just to the north of this, and I think the mouth of the river is right where the point of land, but then it goes back up to a little embayment, so that's,
Right.
south of that, it's not the river. I think that's how they determine that.
The only other question, might be a small point, you're proposing 6 white oaks. If some critter comes along that really likes white oak in the future, you're liable to lose those trees. So you think, just for
Mix it up.
biodiversity, you might want to mix that up a little bit, you know, maybe throw a red maple or two, or a tupelo in there, just to kind of break it up.
Would they do so well in such sandy soil?
Sorry?
Would they do so well in such sandy soil?
I think tupelo and red maple would be sufficient, or white ash, you know, and just, that's the only small one.
Go way out and go hickory or
A little
something?
more biodiversity.
Yeah, I can change up some of the, make some more variety.
Thank you. So,
Well, couple little things. Must remain open for septic system maintenance. I kind of drew a couple lines on my Sharpie and scaled out where a truck would go before it starts spinning its wheels and making a chocolate mess of everything down here. And I know if I reseeded and aerated and wanted to have that, and I'm putting a 46,000-pound truck that's gonna pump my poo, I wouldn't want them to be tearing that up. I think,
Possible, I guess they have pretty long hoses, maybe they can do
Yeah.
it from their driveway by the
I'm,
garage.
I did that along the back, and you're pumping, you know, so I'm just a little anxious about,
Yeah.
yeah, what goes on down there. And as I was writing that down, you said if it can be done, as far as the inverts on the septic system. I don't know if that was a Freudian slip, or are you anticipating not being able to have a gravity-fed system there? Are your margins that close that you,
We No, I'm pretty sure it can be done. We didn't dig it up, let you do it we didn't get the full inverts on it. I'm pretty sure it can be done, because they're putting in a new
We're not
house.
winning me over, I'm pretty sure, and, you know,
Well,
if it
there's a pump
can,
chamber there already, so
Right.
it can be kept that way. I was saying, ideally, we'd like to put in a gravity system.
so, I wanna understand it. You guys are there and they mishmash and make a chocolate mess of everything, then it's gone. You get your pump chamber, and then you're gonna go X amount of feet up, and at that point, you realize you can't. Are you gonna leave the existing system, or are you gonna put another pump chamber further up?
I would say they probably shouldn't work on the system until they determine the inverts and make sure how well it can work.
I'd love to say that that would be a methodology that would lend more flow, no pun intended. Right? That's my only hiccup on this right now, is on that end. You know, you didn't give me the warm fuzzies with the if, it, and possible, you know, I don't like those, because the what ifs and that end up being confusion and misunderstandings. And this is a good project, and I don't want to see any misunderstandings on it. That's all I have. And you have a DEP?
Pretty sure.
Okay. Pretty sure.
Yeah, again.
You're winning me over. So if we,
I think Jen nodded her head.
okay.
So I'll say, yes, we have that.
Okay, at this point in time, if we have enough information, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, that's Russell's motion, Mario's second. At this point in time, I'd open up to the audience. If there's anyone that would like to comment on this project, please come up to the podium, identify yourself, and have your speak. Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Can you just give me that plan note change? Thanks.
And moving on, we have a request for hearing under an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Old Main LLC, 96 Old Main Road, and Old Main Road and map, North Falmouth, request for confirmation of the following wetland resource area boundaries, bordering vegetated wetland, and 2 isolated vegetated wetlands, isolated land subject to flooding. The audience can't see it unless they have an agenda, but there are a lot of acronyms in here. It's just what it is the project is going to be describing the wetland pieces of this project, or of the lot. There isn't a project proposed, it's describing all the, I'm gonna let the engineer take it.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My name is Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. We're here tonight because we filed the abbreviated request for resource area delineation, also known as an ANRAD, so that we could get a confirmation of the wetland resources on the parcel of land in the application. It's actually 3 parcels. 96 Old Main has an existing house on it, and then there's 2 other parcels to the rear. This is just north of North Falmouth Elementary on Old Main Road, and the property owner is contemplating ideas on how to develop it, and one of the very first steps in that process is to make sure that we understand and agree with you folks on where the wetland resource area boundaries are. That's the sole purpose for the application. So we retain the services of Sebacia Environmental, Bob Gray. He did the wetlands delineations and the backup support information such as the data sheets that accompany the, or support his findings in the field. The wetlands were flagged. Mark Cass was your agent, along with Commissioner DiGregorio. Have been to the site. We had a site visit. We walked through the wetland areas, and we verified most and made adjustments on some of the flags. After some, on-site discussions at each station, you try to fine-tune the delineation. And we've incorporated all of the suggested adjustments in the flags on this final plan that was resubmitted to your office. So I believe we have a concurrence with the staff on the wetland delineation that's on the updated plan. And if you vote it, the next step is to proceed with investigating options to develop the property further. And then, of course, if there's work proposed within your jurisdiction, we would file the necessary applications, whether it be an RDA or notice of intent. But right now, we don't have a project. So that's basically it. And I'm not a wetland scientist, but knowing I wasn't a wetland scientist, I think we satisfied staff, so I'm sort of here just to give you that background. And if there's any specific questions, Bob Gray couldn't be here tonight. We would have to continue it, which I hope we don't. I hope there aren't any questions. I hope that you will take staff's recommendations. We still can't close the hearing, though, because we don't have a file number.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has gone out there multiple times, and the last time went out with Sebacia and one of our commissioners to look at the wetland line. The adjustments were made in accordance with the discussion in the field, according to Mark. So staff is fine with confirming the resource area boundaries at this time. The only comment I'd like to make is it was the wrong time to look for potential vernal pools, so we'll make that a finding. But we can't close the hearing tonight anyway. Mike, your buffers on these are going to be 100 feet because you're in natural heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to, what do you have, a 40 scale? Oh, well, it's better than 40. Yeah, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at that.
Understood.
And that's all I have to say. I know Mario was out in the field with Mark and Bob. Nice site, huh?
It was a beautiful day.
Oh, it was a great day.
What a great
It's
day.
a tough site. So he would be able to speak to the planning.
And I'm going to open it up for you.
It was a great day to be in the field, and we're in the field for over 2 hours. So we really gave it the fine-tooth treatment out there. And the reason we had to do that is this area is featureless.
Yeah,
It's
flat.
absolutely flat, and with practically no elevation whatsoever. One of the most difficult wetland delineation sites, I think, in town. So we really looked into soils. The vegetation is a complete facultative zone. The department wants a line in the sand, but nature works in gradations, it works in phases. So to actually draw a line, this is upland, this is wetland, sometimes it's just not possible. This is one of those times. So we looked at soils, hydrology, and I can say that these reflected the changes we made, the site plan here. Frankly, I think it was pretty conservative, and the only little gripe I have is that this was pretty late in the year to do box turtle surveys. I think they were like 2 or 3 days short on the mandated season, right?
It's today, October 15th.
15th, right. So, of course, on a day like today, where it was so warm and everything, might have been a good time to go out today to look for the box turtle. But other than that, I think under difficult circumstances, I think they did a pretty good job on this.
Thank you. Mary?
I have a question, I think probably for Jen. It's, has to do with the shelf life of an ANRAD, and I was looking at our regs and the state regs, and it's,
We will go with 3 years.
3 years, okay. All right, that's all, thank you.
Russ?
Questions?
John?
No questions.
When you get to hear kudos from Mario, that means an awful lot in my book. He's tried to mentor me in certain things, and I'm still a little bit of a Neanderthal when it comes to these things. I rely on that, and when you say conservative, you know, I appreciate your candor with that. What you had made mention earlier, Jen, about the, not the time of year for investigating.
Burnable, yep. But it's a pretty flat site, but just to put that in a finding, I think is important, because they do have vernal pools in that general area. But I think that just should be a finding, but we will be confirming the wetland boundaries. And just because the wetland boundaries in this area have a 100-foot buffer because of the natural heritage and rare species overlay,
Okay.
in accordance with your regs.
And you made mention that you're well aware of what was just discussed.
Yes.
On the buffer.
Yeah, I think to take Jen's lead, the no disturbance zone is 100 feet from a wetland in priority habitat, and it's 100 feet from a vernal pool.
Yeah.
So even
And
if,
that boundary is not going to be too far off. in an
We're all-
area like
we're on
this,
the
so.
same
We're all on the same page.
Yep.
Okay. Now, do we,
Do you anticipate getting a number out to DEP by the 29th? I know I saw this email that went back and forth with DEP and you guys on the 9th. So about the,
yeah, I think, I expect we will.
Okay.
I mean, I was hoping we'd have it tonight. In
I
fact,
looked.
is there any chance to continue to the 22nd?
Yeah.
In
That's
hopes-
if this is,
yeah, if all we're waiting for is a number, that's not a
And
problem.
if for some reason it's still not issued, which I would think it would be, but if it's not, we'd have to move it. There's no more need to talk, it's just a formality.
Yeah, just a file number, that's fine.
Thank you.
that I'm comfortable in having, if I entertain a motion,
At the request of the applicant, I move that we continue the hearing until October 22nd.
Second.
Mary's motion, Russell's second. And this is either, if you don't have the number, we're just gonna make a motion to continue it for at least a week at that point in time, because next week's really jammed. So, is there any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the, oh, hey, please, come up to the podium and identify yourself. Thank you.
Burton Shank, I'm one of the abutters just to the north of it. I was just curious what the regulations are with box turtles. That's something I wasn't aware of, or concerns with box turtles.
Well, the areas within, the whole site is within natural heritage. So if they are proposing to develop the site, they will have to work with natural heritage in the areas that aren't within wetlands jurisdiction to come up with a conservation plan to protect the turtles.
Okay.
And I think that is being done with the sweeping of the turtles and finding them while they're doing active construction out there in
Okay.
areas outside of our, this board's authority.
Covers my question.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about this project? Please.
I'm Amy Lowell, I'm also in a butter, and my question was, there wasn't discussion now about the intention of the wetland area, but just a preliminary question is, do you know, is the intention of the project to make part of the planned area a conservation, is it a conservation restriction, and then what would that mean for that kind of development? Do you know who would have jurisdiction then over that conservation restriction? Who would own it?
I can answer that in very general terms. I don't have specifics. I can tell you that there'll be a big open space component to whatever we do, yet to be determined. And that open space component, who would control the open space component hasn't been decided yet, but we plan on whatever ends up being developed, there'll be a significant part that's left undeveloped. Obviously, we have to meet your regs, but the intention is to do that regardless. So there'll be open space, non-developed parts, significant parts of the property on the west side.
To be determined at another time.
Yes, the specifics to be determined, and how it's controlled and who, under whose direction. There's options on that.
Okay.
We haven't got that far yet.
I hope that satisfies your question.
It does, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? I want to make sure. Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, see you next week.
Next is 62, it's an enforcement hearing, and it's number 62 English Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission, for clearing and altering wetland resource area and in buffer to resource areas as defined in FWR 10 and 310 CMR 10.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a continuance from last week. Right now, what I'm handing John is a before and after shot of 62 English Street. The before shot was taken in 2012. The after shot was taken, about a month ago. As you can see, there's been a significant amount of clearing and alteration of the coastal bank, and definitely clearing on the removal of some significantly large trees and shrub material in the buffer to that coastal bank and to the salt marsh. The staff would like to recommend an enforcement order to provide a restoration plan, but at this point, we have not been on the site to do a complete inventory of what was removed. So the applicant, I was assuming, was going to be here this evening. We would like to ask the applicant permission to go onto the property prior to issuing an enforcement order. If that's not agreed upon, we can issue an enforcement order requiring us to go on the property, but we'd like to do an inventory prior to getting into specifics of what that restoration plan would look like. Mr. Chairman, as we discussed in our pre-meeting, we can go out there next Thursday, August 23rd.
Okay.
And follow up.
August?
No, August, I'm sorry. You know, it was 90 degrees.
Wishful
out today.
thinking, yes.
And humid.
Yes, so October 23rd, and then we can follow up on the 29th with some firmer recommendations. If not, and if you wanted to vote in order, an enforcement order tonight, obviously you would have to have approval of whatever plan was submitted to us, so.
Well, good evening, welcome. This is a process to rectify, and what Jen and what we're, as a board, we're asking you is for permission to go on your property, and you can come up here if you'd like. And I'm just going to be mimicking what Jen had said, that allows us to do an inventory, and that's to your benefit as well, so that we're not guessing at something that's more than or less than. If you're amenable to that, the process then begins. Staff would go out, maybe a commissioner, maybe two, no more than that, because then it becomes a whole advertising thing and all that. We go in, we review the property. We have some pretty detailed
Sure.
photos of it. And then from there, staff would make recommendations to you about a restoration on certain things. And from there, we start the enforcement order. You have an idea of what we expect. You're able to respond to it. If you're not amenable to that, then there's other ways to do it. But it's,
We have no issue with that.
oh, well, look at that. This is a, thank you.
Okay.
We have no
I stumbled
issues
over
with
my
that.
feet the whole time.
Yeah, so I'm Luke McCabe. We have no issues with that, and we're happy to work with you to remediate it. So
Okay.
At this, with the 23rd of October, it's a Thursday,
It's next Thursday.
If we don't need to be there,
Schedule.
you don't have to be
You don't
there.
have to be, if you'd like a representative there, that's fine with us.
if I
We
can get there,
just-
I'll get there. If you let me know what
Okay.
time. I work from home, so
Okay,
I'll be able to do that.
we can do 10 o'clock?
That should be fine.
Okay,
We'll let you know. Is that all right?
okay, that's fine.
I'm gonna let other board members speak as well.
Sure.
Yep, Mary?
I'm just curious as to, this has been posted as 62 English Street. Is all the affected property actually 62 English Street, or is there more, is there public land? Is there
That,
a
we
butters
don't know
affected?
yet. That's why we need to go out and look at it, Mary. We were only viewing it from the street. I don't know how far the cutting is down the end of English Street into the marsh. We did see some of the debris that was, left on the coastal bank in the buffer to that marsh. That debris may or may not be on that property. Obviously, one of the requirements of an enforcement order is gonna be a survey.
Yeah,
It
okay.
has to be.
Good,
That's fine. We understand that.
all right, thank you.
Is there any other comments from the
No, I
board?
don't, no.
Okay, so,
Sure.
My name is Jennifer McCabe,
yes,
and I would like to ask, you mentioned the end of English Street. At the very end of the street, we do not own that, so anything that's been done at the end of the street is not our property.
When I'm talking the end of the street, here's your road, here's your house, here's where all the trees were cleared on your property, on the edge of your driveway, and all that material, as again seems to, and we do need to confirm this, been left over the top of the coastal bank. If that is a result and that has been damaged, that will be required to be restored.
Oh, I was just
Yeah.
asking about the
No,
question
that's
about,
fine.
you said
No,
the
I
end of the
understand,
street,
but
which
we
is not our
don't-
property.
The end of the
Right.
street, I'm just, the end of, because
The property.
your property's at the terminus of at the end of the road. But again, we're gonna need a survey to determine that.
Understood.
And just to be clear, my question was about the clearing that was done, being confined to
Again, I need a
62
survey.
English Street, which I
Need
would
to
say
go find like a
it's not
property
confined to
bound,
that.
yeah, a property bound, I
I would
can't
say
make
there's
that
probably public land and probably one other private lot involved.
well,
Possibly.
we are gonna,
That's fine.
we're gonna find out,
That's fine.
so,
We will work with you. We're
thank you.
happy to.
Yep, and I'm glad you're here. It's.
And I appreciate that you guys moved it. I was out of town last week, and we appreciate that. And if we've made some mistakes, we'll fix it.
Yeah,
It's that
and
simple.
We're
it's
not
a-
engineers, we're residents, we're homeowners, a lot of the lingo we heard tonight, I don't understand, but we're learning
And that's why
we're
I,
willing to remediate.
yeah, and that's, I'm glad you're here, and I want you to understand it. We slow it
We
down a little
appreciate
bit.
it.
and,
We listen to your, so we
yeah.
appreciate it.
So, how do we want to move this?
Well, if we're gonna go out on the 23rd,
Yep,
we should continue this. Oh, which am I?
Is it at least the
Soon
29th?
becoming my favorite night, the 29th.
yep.
Uh,
If we have a really good meeting and an understanding on that, if it's on the 29th,
The 29th,
It's
I mean,
pretty full, huh?
It's full, but it's not too bad. I mean, we have 2 notices, 4 continued, and then that one continued.
if we should have everything cleared up, because what that does, on the 29th, it gives you legitimacy to start forward on the next phase of
Yeah,
just
so I'd say
restoration.
continue this to 29 to vote the enforcement order, sorry.
Okay. I can entertain a motion.
Very There's none. Move to continue the enforcement hearing to October 29th.
Yes, contingent upon, we're
Contingent.
going out on the site on October 23rd, which is next Thursday.
At 10 a.m.
Yeah. Rain or shine. Or in the
Okay,
case of
that's
today.
Mary's motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
John's second. Is there any other discussion from the board? Is there any other discussion from the audience? Is there any
Thank
other
you.
questions you need answered at this point in time?
I think
Thanks, you.
we'll see you next week.
All right.
Yep, that's
Call-
fine.
Call for the vote. All in favor?
2 weeks. Aye.
Opposed?
We'll
Any
meet next
abstention?
week.
Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I see those photos?
Okay, and now we have other business, a request from Falmouth Academy for permission to use BB Woods for Chase the Turkey Race on November 27th, 2014.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is an annual event sponsored by Falmouth Academy to use BB Woods for the Thanksgiving Day Chase the Turkey Race, which I believe, I want to say it's about a 4-mile race. So,
5K.
nice annual event. They've been very responsible in the past with the use of the property, so staff recommends, once again, approving the event.
And unfortunately, as chair, I cannot make this motion because I would enthusiastically do so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion from the audience? Well, I gotta tell you, I always get a kick out of this thing. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Now, we're going to vote orders of conditions. And we're gonna be,
We
Mike,
actually have to continue one because we need Mike.
which one would that be?
That is, no, that's Gunning Point.
Oh.
So,
When we
Who
continue
else is-
that, we're gonna, have to have a special meeting?
yes, we'll have to have a special meeting, which is fine.
What was the issue with, Gunning Point?
We don't have a
No, we
quorum.
don't have a quorum to vote.
Oh, Mike.
Remember, Tom will get up, there'll be 3 of you sitting there. We'll look at each other in confusion.
So what is the quorum? Can we just say what the quorum is?
The quorum is going to be
You recuse yourself?
No, that was a different one. That was
Mary?
Mamet's.
Yeah.
Ross, Tom, and Mike. Can you get
Oh, my.
early Monday morning? I have an 8:30 meeting. We could do it at 8 o'clock. We could do it 7:30. It all depends on, I know Ross is here.
I can do those times. I prefer later rather than earlier, but I know Tom has constraints, so whatever he needs.
Well, I appreciate the considerations. I'll meet you halfway if we do it at 7:30.
7:30, okay?
Thank you.
My apologies for the quorum, the
No.
happy crap that
No, it's
happens,
not.
you know.
It's just, it happens.
Yeah, I know. So, do we have to move that?
7:30.
Or is that just what it's gonna be?
No, I'll post a public meeting and that's what it's gonna be.
And at that time, it'll be on Monday, what's Monday's date?
20th.
Thank you.
Um,
And
Downstairs.
Downstairs at 7:30 in the morning.
Sorry.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your stay here.
I'm looking, Mr. and Mrs. Billings, I'm so sorry. I saw you sitting back there, I was like, they look familiar. I would have told you, I am so sorry.
Well, have a pleasant evening. Thank you for coming in. All right,
Oh, I feel so bad.
next is
I think that's the
158
second time
Church
I've done
Street.
that.
Can we do that?
158 Quorum. Getting all that. Ross, Tom, Mary, John.
Uh,
This is is Mr. McGrath's project out on Church Street, raise and rebuild. Whew,
No.
Is this the one by the
I'm gonna bring
lighthouse?
something wrong.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
One second. Start of raise and rebuild, I don't have any notes on any particular special conditions on there. They're moving it further away from that bank,
Correct.
in Knobs Pond, so that's a benefit. I don't remember any special conditions you guys wanted, so it'll be the normal ones you usually apply to a project, Falmouth-friendly lawn, clean your site,
Stake your bounce house,
yes,
because there's
especially in that area.
gonna be wind.
Yep. Okay.
No one likes a tipped over bounce house.
But I think one of the findings should be that they are moving it back from the bank, which is a good thing.
Yes. If we have enough information and we can make a motion, I would entertain one.
Make a motion to approve. As
Yeah.
discussed.
Second?
Russell's motion, John's second. Is there any comment from the audience on this project? Any further discussion on the board?
No, I'm just looking, I don't seem to have any notes either, so,
Okay.
I mean, nothing worth noting.
Yep. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 67 Gardner Road.
Yeah, same form. Russ, Tom, Mary, and John. The only concerns that staff has for the Garden Road project is gonna obviously be the dewatering stuff. They'll have to submit, the contractor will have to submit a dewatering plan.
Yes.
This is the site where the abutter asked if they would shift it.
And yet we can't.
No, you really can't in this area.
That's, as much as I'd love to accommodate people,
Yeah.
from our regulatory stance, we can't.
And I also think that we should do a contractor meeting with this one, just because, I mean, it's complete, to be quite frank, the house is in a wetland. It's just been a cleared wetland, there's a house there.
Yes.
So, I think having a meeting,
Pre-construction meeting?
pre-construction meeting
Yeah.
with the contractor.
Just to make sure he's on the same page and understands the notice.
It's just because you've got wetlands all around that site, and some of where they're doing that stone driveway, you're basically like 1 foot away. It's tough.
They're gonna have to have plan review in the building department on that anyway. I wonder if that's probably when the time you should jump in on it.
That may be-
Possibly, I would want to go out in the field with them though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
I mean, I can,
But when they present the plans, it's gotta be, you're gonna have to go through a plan review.
yeah, and
So
that's fine.
If you jumped in
And-
on that
Yeah,
at
Condense
the
that.
beginning,
I could do
And
that,
then
but I
it
also
might-
do want to meet out in the field with them,
Correct.
just because it's obviously a field component to that.
At least it's not engaging
right,
from the start, so that they got
exactly, so that gets in the notes with Gary or whoever does
Okay.
the,
inspections on the
So I'll
footings
say
and
that will
such.
be part of plan review and then an on-site contractor meeting.
I think
And
that,
I want a dewatering plan
Oh,
from them
good,
prior.
yeah, that's a good idea, Russ. That way, definitely, yeah, that'll segue into a nice, the inspectors might have a little bit of a heads up as far as what we're anticipating from the site as well.
exactly.
That, and I'm not quite sure that those two-seaters are actually gonna really be happy there. I think they'll die.
Yeah.
So I would like a different tree, but I did discuss that in the hearing. I just don't think they'll do well there.
Okay. So we have information that's been written down and,
Move to approve the order as discussed.
Sorry, one quick thing added to that is any invasive removal, they'll need to come back to you with a bigger plan that was discussed by the board at the hearing as well.
correct.
Yep. Okay.
That was included in your motion.
That was.
Thank you.
It is now.
Second.
dumped it right in there.
Yeah. Mary's motion, John's second. Is there any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion on this project in the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 281. Next is 281 Edgewater Drive West. I just had that.
Oh, this is the amended, that Mr. Borselli presented where they have to shift the stairs.
Correct.
Yeah, sorry, Susan.
Oh, the deck, yeah.
Yep.
Mario, Mary, Russ, Tom, and John. So that was an amended for this one.
Yes.
Yeah, the footprint changed too much for me to do it. West, so, I think you guys were fine with it. I don't think there were any huge concerns.
Nope.
With how he did that.
That's correct.
He did add the overhang, that was one of the concerns that the staff
From the
had,
original.
so.
Yep.
Yep, and the calculations, so I think we're good with that one.
Okay.
All your normal standard and special conditions.
Move to adopt the order as discussed.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mary's motion, Russ's second. Any further discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
And then we'll do a hearing, a meeting to vote 57 Gunning Point on 7:30 Monday morning.
Fantastic.
Okay, and we'll post that tomorrow.
Is there any other business? I'd entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Mary's motion, Russ's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you and good night.
Hang on.
I just read off.